right, so today's session is going to specifically talk about what you can expect when you get into a physical classroom during the fall 2020 semester at CSU-Pueblo. We're going to talk a little bit about the tech that's in the classroom. We're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of how it works, some of the things that you're seeing. One thing you'll notice right now is I'm wearing a mask. I'm also wearing a headset that's projecting my voice. Part of this is I am teaching in the exact environments that you would be teaching in as well. The purpose of this is so that you can see that we're going through the same things that faculty will be going across this campus. So I've learned a few things by just doing this in a mask with projection systems and all the tech that's around me. There's a few things that you're going to have to be really careful of and aware of that's a little different than how you may have facilitated your class in the past. I'll tell you, one of the things is it's really difficult to teach and lecture in a mask. And so one thing that I've been learning is just open mouth breathing. It's where you open your mouth behind the mask and you can take in some deep breaths. So I find myself doing that a lot. That was a little strategy that or a tactic that I found out earlier on. So I may sound a little winded at points, is because I am having some trouble breathing. There's times where they talk about putting a face guard on. So the face guard would be a shield and you could see your mouth. So that could work if you have a headset that's on. So right now I have a headset that is projecting my voice. It's just in the room. So anybody that would be face to face would be able to hear me. And then obviously you're maybe hearing me a little bit more. So let's get into the session. One thing to take note is that there is a chat room. You can go ahead and put your chat in the chat, and Denise Henry, our instructional technologist, will be there to be able to answer any questions that might come up. We have a pretty specific schedule to go through, an agenda today, so we're going to get through as much of that, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end. And if there's an additional thing that you need answered, we can definitely do that after this session. Okay, so let's start with an icebreaker. One of the first things that is really difficult when you're teaching in a Zoom and also a face-to-face is really kind of bringing everyone together. So one of the first things I want to do is let's go around the room today, and we're going to talk about introductions and share who's in the room with us so we can kind of understand what's going on. I'll tell you right now, a little quick anecdote for my day is I started the morning remote. I did a lot of work this morning. I came into campus, had some good meetings on Zoom, and now I've been able to set up into this space and be able to show off what it might look like in a classroom. So it's been a pretty busy morning up to this point for me, but I'm excited to be here today. Let's go ahead and I'll pitch it on to Denise.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm going to turn off my virtual background really quick and show you my room. This is my whiteboard system that my awesome boyfriend set up for me. There are two whiteboards, and you put hooks on the back and hooked it onto the front of a metal shelf. So that's just like one of those wire shelves that you would have in your garage. And I have like just my little office stuff over here. I've got my little corner of the room set up with my files and my bookshelf. And this is my space where I work every day.
Thanks, Denise. It looks like Sylvester's next on the list here. So you don't have to turn on your camera if you don't like, but you can.
No, you guys can see me. And today I'm working from the office, and therefore what you see behind me is essentially the wall behind my desk and stuff. So I am in the usual location for my work for today.
Thanks, Sylvester. Looks like we got Colleen. Colleen, you want to share a little bit about where you're at, something about what's going on today?
Sure, I'm sitting in my office that I will be using. Actually, I'm at home in my office, and you'll see behind me, I think if the light is good enough, these are actually models that I will use for my kinesiology class. And so I have a blank model and then a model that I can show my students as they put the clay on for their muscles.
That's great.
That's where I am.
Yeah, that lighting is going to be key for that too. So yeah, making sure you have a really good lighting source will help you out.
Right, and I have more lights. They're just not all turned on.
No, it looks great. I mean, I can still see it now. So awesome.
Good. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to offer? I see Helen in the call.
Hi, I'm working at home today, so this is my living room. And I'll be doing some of my teaching from here because my class is hybrid.
Cool. Looks like there's something fun that's hanging on the ceiling in the corner there. That looks cool. Thanks, Ellen. Let's see, Humberto. Would you like to give us a little tour of your space or give us an anecdote about your day? Not sure if you have your mute on or if you're there. I think your mute's on, Humberto. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
The engineering department. So normally I just go with 15 or half an hour before the class to the campus for my class. I'm not sure how it's going to work this semester. Maybe I will do from home my sessions, okay? Because I don't have a setup yet, and my office is already, I don't know how it looks like today. I mean, I was from the school from March last year, so this year. So basically, I finished the last semester working doing from home my classes. Okay.
Great, thanks, Humberto. And it looks like we also have Thad in there. You want to?
Hi, I'm Thad. I have a cat who loves when I sit in this office chair. So
Awesome.
in my office.
What's your cat's name?
Otis.
Otis. Awesome. Well, welcome Otis and Thad to the session. Thanks for sharing, everyone. That's just really a great example of how you can kind of unify the room. We didn't really know each other before we were in a call. We all just kind of felt like we were in our living rooms or in our locations, in our offices, but it was really difficult to kind of understand. So at least we know who's in the call together, who's kind of there. We have a few different departments, a few different kind of perspectives that we're going to go through. So thank you for joining us today on that and sharing your information. That's a good activity that you can do both in the classroom and online. Might be kind of a unifying activity that you can work on as you start out your semester, just so that everyone's kind of familiar with who's in there. I'm not sure you need to do it daily, but there's not a reason that you might not want to do that daily. So there might be some new things that you'd show off. Let's go ahead and jump in directly into the tech and kind of the things that you are going to see when you walk in the classroom. This session is going to be about the nuts and bolts of what is in the classroom so you can start getting comfortable with the concept of what's going to be happening. So I'm going to show you a few screenshots of what you'll see as you get into the classroom, and then I'm going to demonstrate the usage of some of these pieces. So one of the first things across many of the rooms that you'll see on this campus is that you'll have a standard multimedia setup. So when I say a standard setup, that means some sort of a lectern desk. You'll have a touch panel that you're seeing on the screenshot there, and then you'll have a few additional items that are on that desk. Now, the touch panel has always been there. We've just spent the last 3 years updating the entirety of campus to a fully digital campus in our multimedia spaces. So there's roughly 110 rooms across campus that have aligned with this standard, have standard equipment in it. We can help you remotely because we know it's in those rooms. And if there's issues, we can help you sometimes. Sometimes we do have to go in and unplug a cable or replug something in inside of the desk itself. But what this gives us is a really good foundation to do what we've done next. And that's to equip it with some video enhancements that you're going to see now. So the first thing that you want to know is when you get into the room, to be able to leverage all of the tools that we've kind of made available, specifically the webcam and the document camera, you will have to be on the Lectern PC input. We're leveraging the PC in these rooms to do all of our Zooming and also to have these dock cameras feed into it. So if you go to another input, if you bring in your device, if you don't have a webcam on that device or you don't have the right kind of tech, it's going to be a little bit different setup. But I'm going to leave that on you to note if that's something that you're going to want to do. Like what I'm saying is, if you come in the classroom, the most standard setup will be to use the Lectern PC. All right. Here. Okay, so here is an example of a camera. This is actually the same exact camera that I'm using right now. So if you look in my, my video screenshot, I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this camera a little bit just so you can see how easy it is to rotate the camera. Right now I'm talking to a blank room. There's no students in this particular room. My prior video did show a bigger classroom. So this is my medium-sized classroom. So we have about 14 face-to-face students that we'll have in this classroom. In some instances, you may want to turn the camera so that the class can see or at least the remote students can see the class that is on this end. We specifically found these cameras so that it's easy to turn these and adjust your camera pretty easily like that. Now, if you need to be on that camera, you have a very narrow area where you can kind of walk. So if I walk over here, you can kind of see me in front of the board, but my audio might be a little less. And that's because the microphone is inside of that camera. So with social distancing and the idea of kind of keeping ourselves separate, you're gonna wanna stay near that lectern anyway. So you will be generally in this space. Now I am projecting my voice. I have this little device that you kind of can see. If I get it too close to this mic, it starts giving me feedback. But that's going to be a way that you'll be able to amplify your voice so that microphone will pick it up. So those are going to be attached to all the lecterns. One thing to note is that there are going to be a certain subset of rooms that will not have this exact setup because they're not standard rooms. So we have certain rooms that we're going to be putting together a very similar setup. It may be a laptop and a webcam. It may just be a laptop and a dot cam, but you're gonna have some very similar tech depending on where you're at. One of the other areas that we're gonna look at is the dot cam. So the dot cam is gonna be the replacement, at least temporarily, for whiteboards and chalkboards. So that might be a little bit shocking at first, but the idea here is if you have remote participants and you have face-to-face participants, you're going to have a really hard time showing what's on a whiteboard to those remote participants. So there's actually a whiteboard behind the screen, but the screen kind of has to be down to be able to show some of the presentation materials. So that's always been an issue already before the current events. But one of the things that this dot cam will allow you to do is you can project what you're writing on a sheet of paper to your remote participants, and then also on the screen itself, you'll be able to show your remote or your in-class participants what you're writing down. So this is just a standard kind of setup of what you're looking at. You can tell there's that touch screen there. There's a camera that's on that back wall there, or at least on that back area of the lectern, and you have your standard computer. So here's an example of what a personal microphone is going to look like. We're really suggesting that everyone will get one of these. We have been making orders. It's very hard to source these, but we're making some strides to get some on site so that each individual faculty member can have one of these devices so they can amplify their voice in the room. So let's get into just a little bit of the nuts and bolts of how all this is going to work together. So before I jump in, I'm going to go back to this document, or at least this image, and talk a little bit about what you're going to do when you walk into the classroom. So you want to give yourself at minimum about 15 minutes of lead time, if you can, because you have to open up your Zoom. You have to kind of set some things on your desktop. So I can see the chat, for instance, right now. I could also see all the participants in this session, who's muted. I want to be able to access that information. And then, of course, I wanted to share my screen and be able to do all those different elements. It took me about 15 minutes to get it all set up. So the thing that you really need to make sure you have is, first of all, two things. Some sort of place where students know to click a link to get into these sessions. And then the second thing is the actual link to click to get into a Zoom session. So let's just quickly talk about how you can get that link. There's two ways, and I'm going to actually demonstrate a new way that's going to be a lot more easier for faculty as we go into the fall. So first of all, most of you should have a Zoom account by this point. By just joining the Zoom call, you are participating in a Zoom. It's going to be very similar. Think of yourselves as the students right now. You are the students in this scenario. So this is kind of the experience that you would be getting as a student. So if you had to raise your hand or if you had to do something as a student, how would you do that virtually? Well, first off, if everyone on their screen kind of moves their mouse around, gets the menu to show up, sometimes it's at the top, sometimes it's at the bottom, and you want to click on your participants panel. When you click on participants, it's going to show you everyone that is in the session. And at the very bottom of that participants panel, you're going to notice that there's a bunch of buttons. That's your nonverbal kind of feedback that students can give to you as you're in the session. So if a remote student has a question, they can click that one of these buttons to be able to either raise their hand, go faster, go slower. There's a lot of opportunities that you can put there. So it looks like, you know, Thad said no, for example, and it goes away. If everyone is able to find those buttons, go ahead and put yes or a thumbs up or, all right. Looks like most of you are finding the buttons. So on my end, and you may not see it on there, I can clear those out. So I just cleared them all so I know what's going on. So through the session, you're going to want to look at that participants panel. That way, if there's a question that's happening remotely, you'll be able to address it right there. One of the best practices that we're starting to find is maybe designating an on-site student to keep an eye on that, or even have it on their laptop so they can kind of help monitor the session. For instance, Denise at the moment is in the chat, and she would answer any questions that I might be able to, I might gloss over as we go forward. Okay, so if you have any other issues or you have any questions, go ahead and use that panel in this session. So here we are, and the screen that you're seeing is we're in Zoom. This is just the basics of how you set up a Zoom meeting. We already have had that Zoom 101. If you weren't able to attend that, we do have a recording of that session that you can go to in our PLC course. That's our professional learning course. So we can provide that information in that Blackboard. We've recorded all of our old sessions so you can kind of review that information. But in this particular instance, we're just setting up a Zoom meeting, a standard Zoom meeting. So you'd get your meeting, you go find your copy your meeting invite, and then you can integrate it into your class. So that is one way that you can kind of get a Zoom meeting, is you have set it up completely in Zoom. You copy and paste that URL into your Blackboard shell. Now, I have a screenshot up here that says Blackboard default shell. There's two kind of components in my mind of how this is all going to work. You're going to have kind of a default Blackboard shell or some sort of Blackboard component that's going to hold the link. It's going to have all your students in there. It's going to have information about your sessions. So if you go in and you record a Zoom session, for instance, to some face-to-face students, but one of your remote students had bad internet connection that day or couldn't join the session, you should be recording your session so that they can see it later on down the line. And where would they find that recording? Well, it would be in their Blackboard course. So think about your Blackboard course as the one solid thing that's there for all your students 24/7. So I'm going to stop my share for just a moment, and I'm going to jump into Blackboard, and I'll share my full Blackboard screen. All right. So here we are in a standard Blackboard course. What I wanted to demonstrate is how Zoom is now integrated with Blackboard and how you might manage your sessions going forward. So one of the things that you can do in your courses is there's this little button that's in the upper left-hand corner. It may be a little hard to see on this screen. Let me see if I can zoom it in just a little bit. Yeah, sometimes that menu, there we go. So in the upper left-hand corner of a Blackboard course, you can hit this or highlight this button. It's a little plus sign, and you go down to Tool Link. When you click on Tool Link, it's going to give you this option to pick a type and add a name for it. So I'm just going to say Zoom Classroom. And then under the type, I'm going to click down, and there's a whole slew of tools here, but the one you're looking for is called Zoom Meeting. And then you want to make it available to users. Once you hit submit, it's going to drop it to the very bottom of your list. You can go ahead and drag it up to wherever you might want to place it in your menu. I like to put mine up in that top area. And this is where the magic happens, so to speak. So if you already have a Zoom account with a CSU-Pueblo.edu email, right when you click on Zoom Classroom, it's going to go right into your Zooms. It knows because you're authenticated into our Blackboard that we're connected to our Zoom account, and you don't have to do any more logging in or anything like that. You can just start scheduling your class meetings. So I'm not going to go through the details of scheduling a meeting. You're going to want to look at that in Zoom 101, but this is where you can schedule a meeting. So if I were to hit schedule a meeting, I'll just call this Hybrid 101. Come down here, set up your meeting settings, put a waiting room on this guy, and I'm going to hit save. I've just created a meeting for my class. So if I were to go back into my course, click on Zoom Classroom, you're going to notice that I have a meeting that's scheduled. So this is the view from a faculty member. So if you're a student and you log in and you click Zoom Classroom, you're going to get to this page, and instead of saying start and delete, it's going to say join. They just click in the session, they can join your session right there from within Blackboard. So as you will have to hit record on your session when you start it, but after you're done recording it, it will go into a cloud recordings repository. The cloud recordings will automatically show right back up into your Blackboard once it's done processing, and the students can later go back to those cloud recordings to watch your lecture. Now, one thing that we're noticing is that we're a little short on space for those cloud recordings. So we're tentatively looking at this point as a 15-day window that those recordings would be available for students, but you could completely download those files and host them on YouTube or any other kind of hosting site if that becomes an issue. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing that and get back to the presentation. All right. So you can tell right now what I'm doing as I transition between different slides and different things that I'm demonstrating. You're going to have to get pretty good at kind of figuring out where the buttons are on the screen. What I had to do right then is I had to switch back to a different mode of presenting. So you're only seeing a little fraction of my screen at the moment. So it's not the whole screen that I'm sharing. I'm just inside of a presentation and showing things as we go along. So being able to navigate between those environments can be a little daunting when you're in the front of a class and you also have remote participants. So we really suggest you practice using Zoom. If you've not used it yet, you can get an account by contacting our help desk. We'll put it in the ticket queue and they will process that within about 24 hours. You'll get an invite that you accept, set up your account, and you're good to go. We will only do it with the CSU-Pueblo.edu accounts, and that will allow you to integrate it with Blackboard as you go along. So if you really have not had a lot of experience with Zoom, we'll probably provision you a basic account first, which is just a very simple account so you can kind of get the nuts and bolts of it, start some meetings, see how that feels to schedule a meeting, and then when you're ready, we can get you to that fully licensed account. All right, so we kind of already looked into the Blackboard course of where we might put that. I gave you a live demo on it. You'd also want to open any kind of tools that you'd have on your computer. So that's kind of what I was just referring to, is that I opened my Google slide deck. I had some PowerPoints ready. I'd already went to my website. Everything was ready to go for me, so I just have to switch to it because you're going to have to do this live as you go through that. So some of those tools might already be linked in your Blackboard. So all you need to do is just open your Blackboard and you have an instant, quick way to get to the tools, the resources, all the different things that you're going to be able to give to your students. So here's a few things that you can think about within Zoom. So it's really difficult for me to show you screenshots of Zoom while you're in a Zoom. So I just went ahead and took some of these shots that you can kind of see as we go along. First of all, I'm just pointing over to your audio settings. So in the lower left-hand corner, most of us have already muted and unmuted our mics. So you kind of know where that button is. But there's a little arrow that points up, and that little arrow is going to bring you to a bunch of settings. So depending on where you are and who left last, it might have a setting that's attached to a different camera. For instance, we have this dot camera. We're going to demo that in a minute. And we have the web camera. Well, the dot camera actually has a mic in it, and not a great one, but it has one. So somebody may have accidentally put it on the mic camera for the dot cam, and you know you can kind of switch it back by going to this audio menu, hitting the up arrow, and switching it back to the webcam mic. Same thing for video. Video has the same things. You're going to be swapping between a dot camera and a web camera. And this is where you're going to do it. You're going to go to that little area where it has the icon of a video. You'll click the up arrow, and then you'll be able to select one of the devices in there. Now, in this case, I'm showing a little bit more on video settings. So if I were to click into there, it's going to open up a settings panel. So if you went to the audio button or you went to the video button, you hit that up arrow and hit settings, it's just going to open all the settings. So you can scroll through all those different items on the left. We go through a little bit of it as we go through our Zoom 101 training. But in here, one of the big ones is, and it may be a little tough to see on this screenshot, but there's a setting that says mirror my video. Knowing where mirror my video is important, because right now, sometimes when you're in your room or your office, you want to kind of look at yourself in a mirrored view. It looks a little different when it's not mirrored. But this could be problematic when you start using the dock camera, because you're going to be projecting a view to all your participants, which is always the right view. It never mirrors it to your remote participants. But the people in the room, it will mirror it, because you're looking at it as yourself on your own account. So it's problematic, and you'll see why in just a second. But at least you know where to go to change it up. This is just me showing where the participants window is, if you have not seen that. So we already kind of looked at that at the beginning of the session. And this is also where I'm pointing at the record button. So currently right now, in any of the Zoom accounts, if you record, it only tries to record locally. That means it's going to record to the machine that you have in the office or in your room. So even right now, the recording I'm doing is to a jump drive. But we are going to turn on the cloud recording soon so that you can record directly to the cloud. All right, and this is just an example of me showing in that same settings menu that we looked a couple back is to where you can reset to where it records to. In this case, since I'm in a classroom with a lectern, it doesn't have a lot of space. And if we had a bunch of people coming in here trying to save things to this desktop PC, we'd be having an issue because it'd run out of space quick. You could put in a jump drive. I think mine's like 100 gigabytes or something like that. And then I set it before I hit the recording to record to my jump drive. And that way I just have a local MP4 file as I walk out of the class. One thing to note, when you record locally, it can take up to about 15 minutes for it to save it after the session is done. So you got to budget that time in for after the session if you're planning on recording locally. And then you'll see up in the right-hand side, this is an example of a waiting room. So what a waiting room is you all kind of were put in a waiting room before the session started. So what that means is you came to my link, but then you kind of got put in this holding area. And so I was able to see in the participants window everyone that was coming into that holding area, and I would hit admit. So if there was a couple of you that came in, I'd hit admit all, and then everyone would drop in the session. This is helpful from a security perspective of not having just random people jump into your meetings. There were some problems early on with a thing called Zoom bombing, where people would jump into Zoom sessions, do some inappropriate things, and then just jump out. So this at least kind of helps you bring in the people that you know should be in your session. One of the things that you may consider doing is when students jump into the session that they put in their first name or some sort of identifying characteristics so you know it's the right student that you're letting into the call. You can remove students or remove participants that jump in the call by just highlighting the name, clicking the more, and hitting remove. So this is just an example of what happens when you let someone in. That prior one just shows they're in the waiting room, and then this shows Denise jumping into the call. And then this is just an example of Denise maybe using some of the feedback features and what it might look from Denise's perspective as a student. So another thing that's really helpful that you can utilize with inside the Zoom, if you're not using like a fully engaging like slide deck tool like Nearpod or a Google Slides or something like that, you can do some really simple polling within Zoom. So even right now, I can just run a poll. For instance, if I was able to click, let's try this. Is everyone seeing a poll at the moment? You should be able to make some votes. Give it just a second. We got about 5 people that can jump in. Got a few there. All right, looks like overall everyone's feeling pretty ready. That's good. Let's share those results there, which is great. I think we've been using Zoom pretty heavily in these last 5 months that it might be a little easier to transition into this mode. I will tell you that I am in the same boat as you, is that I work from home certain amounts of the time. But there is a huge difference by me sitting here or standing here in this lectern and using all the tools here. It feels like it's a lot more work. So keep that in mind. So in regard to how you do those polls, that is covered in our Zoom one-on-one session, but there's just a real basic thing. There's a poll button when you're the host, and you can set up the polls on the fly, or you can set them up before the session. That way they're available for you to ask questions as you go along. Now, if you're really looking to build out more engaging kind of things like the polls, I suggest working with Denise. She's in the call now. There's some additional tools. We look at this thing called Nearpod, which is a very engaging kind of slide deck program that can offer polling and a whole slew of other features as well. But if you're just using it from Zoom, very easy. There's a poll button at the bottom. You're able to click and you're able to start a poll. All right. And then at the bottom, the share screen. So you can see there's a green button that's in the middle that allows you to share your screen. Now, when you click that share screen button, you're going to have a bunch of different options. It's going to ask you if you want a whiteboard. It's going to ask you if you want to share some sort of screen. There's also an advanced tab, which I don't have a screenshot of what's on that advanced tab, but I'm using it right now, where I'm only sharing a very small portion of my screen so that I have some additional real estate to do some stuff as far as looking at your chat, looking at the various participants panel, things like that. But share screen is something that I would highly suggest that you just open up your Zoom account and play with. You don't even have to have anybody on the other end, but just playing with these buttons, clicking on them, seeing what they do is going to be a lot more helpful as you go along. Yeah, thank you, Denise. There's going to be a session during convocation, interactive strategies and tools. That will be a really good one to attend if you have the chance. We should be recording that as well, so we will have a recording of it. So here's just a quick example of how a shared screen might work and how you can use some additional tools. One of the things I want everyone to do right now is if you move your mouse around on the screen, you should see that menu pop up, and there should be a button that says Annotate on your panel. When you click the Annotate button, you're going to get a little menu that looks very similar to the one on the screenshot at the top. I'm kind of pointing up at the main menu, but right below it, there's an area. So I see somebody put a heart on the screen. What I want you to go ahead and do is let's go ahead and practice doing a little annotations on the screen here. What you do is you click the draw button. You can click the stamper tool. You can start adding things to the screen. So in real time, participants can come in and they can annotate on what you have on the screen. Now, just having a picture up and annotating it might not be helpful, but let's say you had the skeletal structure and you wanted students to circle certain aspects of it, or you wanted to have certain teams of students be working on these different grids and they wanted to fill in specific categories in a column and a row-based kind of grid. You could have the class split up into different groups that say, hey, this group used blue, this group used yellow, this group used red, and they can fill in a chart, and then you can see that everyone participated based off the color. Denise always talks about that way more eloquently than myself, but it's a very awesome tool that you can use right within Zoom. And so one of the things is once you get this done, you can also save the screenshot. You can save it for later. Put it in your repository, share it in your Blackboard course. Maybe there's some really good work that's been done there. In some of our additional sessions, when we get really into the depths of advanced Zoom usage, we do a little bit of breakout rooms that kind of show that off. All right. I'm going to go ahead and clear this guy out. So one of the ones that is really helpful when it starts getting to engaging activities, it's a little difficult for a faculty member to stand at the front of the room the entire time and talk at students, virtual or in person. So there is a breakout rooms tool where you can take a slew of people in a call and break them out into these little rooms where you can have group work that gets done. They have a whiteboard, they have the ability to chat with each other. So you can kind of set that up. It takes a little bit more to unpack on exactly how to do that. And we do have some videos that show that in action. But essentially what happens, you click the button and you're going to have some opportunities to, and I don't think I have a screenshot of it. Let me just make sure I don't. So you have some ability to break up the room, and you'll have these different sections. So right now, I was going to throw you guys out into a breakout room, and we're going to split it into two, and you're going to just get the experience of a breakout room. So if everyone's near their computer, I know that some of us all try to work and go to Zooms at the same time. This one's going to require your attention just for a minute. What we're going to do is we're going to split you out into a breakout room. So this is what we're looking to do. We're going to have two rooms. First room is going to discuss challenges that students will face attending remote sessions. The second room is going to discuss challenges faculty will face teaching remote sessions. So we're going to just make this a very simple activity. I'm going to go ahead and split the rooms. We're going to send you on your way, and then you're going to get pulled back in this session. And what I'm going to need you to do is in those two groups, in those breakout groups, I need you to have somebody that kind of records what you talk about, and then somebody that's going to report out on it. We're going to make this a quick activity, but you can kind of see it in action. So let me stop share. Everyone get the, I'll throw this guy in the chat so everyone can see what you're supposed to be doing. All right. Let's get some breakout rooms going. And I'm just setting my options at the moment. We're going to do these breakout rooms for 5 minutes. And there will be a countdown for about 60 seconds before you need to come back. So here we go. Let's go to our rooms.
Okay.
Hey guys, just letting you know that as a faculty member, you can go between the rooms. I know Denise is in here and she can talk a little bit more about it, but this is how you as a faculty member can jump between groups. There is a panel that shows this as a faculty member when you go into the breakout rooms. But I will leave you to it. So let's talk about the challenges and the students. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Everything at once.
Hey guys, I just wanted to show you that you can jump around as a faculty member as well. So you can jump in and say hello, checking in on your groups. I couldn't hear anything until I joined. Just want to let you know I'm here. I'm going to let you keep talking. So you can visit those groups. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
So just to let you know, right now, I'm recording this meeting, but you are in breakout rooms. So the recording will follow the host as you go along. So it's really important to understand that it's not going to record all these separate sessions that are happening at the moment. And it's going to be kind of on the instructor to kind of jump in and check in and spot check. So there's not a really good way to record all those ever separate sessions out there. But I'm going to kind of hang out for just a little bit, so you get to see this recording of me just standing here looking at the computer for a minute. Check, check, 1, 2. Just checking this mic. Supposedly has about 20 hours of time that it will use before it needs a recharge. So since we're just kind of hanging out here, ooh, I almost feel the thing coming back as far as feedback is concerned. But what you see here is just a little device that I have a little headset goes in there. There's a clip on the back. The speaker projects out. There's some buttons on the top. Apparently it's also a little bit waterproof. I don't know how true that is, but really cool device for just amplifying your voice. The hard part is making sure we can source enough to have enough on campus. Right now, we're trying to hit about 80 if possible, but we'll see if that comes to fruition. We'll still buy what we need to do to get this everyone outfitted on campus. All right, so you should be having a countdown right now. I'm not sure this is actually being recorded. It's probably just my camera, but what's going to be happening is everyone's going to come back into the session, and then we're going to be able to continue what we've been looking at. So I'm going to set up my share screen again. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hopefully we had some good conversation in the breakout rooms. We'll allow everyone to get back in the session. All right. Looks like everyone's here. Let's go ahead and start with breakout room 2. What are some of the challenges that faculty will be facing? You have a reporter. You can go ahead and report out on that. I don't know if everyone's 100% back yet. We'll make sure everyone's here. Somebody from breakout room 2 ready to report on out?
I think someone is muted.
Somebody may be muted.
Yeah, they may be talking, but they don't realize that they're muted.
All right, let's see who that might be. Who did you select to speak out? Breakout room 2. I can unmute some folks.
Sure. where I think we failed at actually deciding who would report out. So.
Yeah, that's all right. If you want to just pick somebody to go ahead, anybody jotted a few notes down, just share with everyone what they may be thinking.
Well, we talked about a handful of things, mostly having to do with, let's see, how did we say that? Obviously, connectivity issues are going to be a problem. Bandwidth issues are going to be a problem. If someone's trying to call in on their phone and there are technical difficulties, I know at the end of the semester, when I was teaching last semester, lots of students were trying to contact or use Zoom to get into calls, and they were not able to both use video and audio at the same time, and other issues like that. And so technical difficulties are going to be a big thing. Also, attention, paying attention when on a Zoom call. And I know I'm quite guilty of this myself. If I'm sitting in my office at home, trying to pay attention to what's going on a Zoom call, it's very easy to decide I need to go wander off into the kitchen and make lunch or something, and I'll be able to hear from the other room what's going on. It's not a big deal, and then it's easy to get distracted. I think as far as
thank you.
I think I can't remember which we were, and now I don't remember if we were room or 1 or 2.
We were one.
Yeah, students. Yeah, I'm talking about students. Okay. I just had a sudden panic that I was talking about the wrong topic.
Right. Anybody from Breakout Room 1 want to talk about, well, we talked a little bit about students. So anybody want to talk about the faculty aspect?
Well, actually, Adam, we had issues regarding discussing about the students, because we were thinking about ourselves as faculty on the issues that we'll be facing. But we came up with some ideas on both sides. But if we are thinking about the students, we thought one of the issue is going to be the time limitation on students on breakout sessions. If you think about 5 minutes that you gave us, it looks like 5 minutes, but really when you are in the breakout session, 5 minutes is very, very short. So those are the kind of things that we'll have to think about.
One thing, I did it abbreviated for this hour session, but I would say a baseline is 15 minutes would be where you'd want to start on those sessions.
Yes. Okay.
And you may have to go around as the faculty to help, not necessarily tell them what they should be talking about, but just do a quick check-in, because some certain student groups, if you're thinking about like a face-to-face facilitation, they'll have a question. And so you kind of have to be able to navigate those groups at times and just do a quick check-in at times. Usually you kind of preface that with some manage expectations so you can get the questions out before you send them to breakout rooms. So those are some of the strategies that you could use. But yes, it is difficult. Denise.
I wanted to mention that one thing that I've discovered a couple of things over the last couple of weeks. 30 seconds is too short of a time for calling them back. They need at least a minute when you call them back, and you set that before you send them out to the breakout room. You can't adjust that on the back end. And then another thing that I've been doing that has been super helpful, I'm going to send you an example right now over in the chat. I'm going to drop a file in there. Let's see if I can get that to drop in. There it goes. What I've been doing is when I send folks out to a breakout room in these professional development sessions, I took I made a copy of my PowerPoint and then turned that into a PDF, deleted out all the extra slides, except for the directions for their activity and how to use the breakout room tools and roles. And that seemed to help the breakout room move along a lot better. Students, I would show them how, or the instructors, I would show them how to use the tools to get to the whiteboard and get to the annotation. But if they're brand new to it, once they got in the room, it was still kind of confusing. So having that document with the directions helped, having the prompt, and then giving everyone a role helps make sure that the room gets saved, you know who's reporting out and all that stuff. You could post that in Blackboard, or you could send it during the session, whichever is easiest for you.
And I'm going to predict that as the semester goes a little bit further in, that's going to become more intuitive. But you're absolutely right, is if managing those expectations up front is key to making that successful. just really articulating that. I could have probably done better with a few more slides. So I am really just trying to truncate what we've done, but there is more of an expansion of this, and you would probably flesh it out a lot more as you go forward and how this would look.
Oh, heck. I just sent that. I didn't send that to everyone. I'm going to drop it in right now.
Great.
Again.
All right, so we're running, relatively short on time. So I did want to go over one of the last things, and that's the dock cam. I talked about whiteboards and chalkboards being really difficult to leverage because the camera just doesn't pick it up that well. We've done plenty of tests with cameras that you can just get on the market, even the really good ones, and they do not pick up the whiteboard. There's been inconsistent lighting. There was a lot of different issues. We were like, we got to really avoid trying to use a whiteboard, at least for the remote participants. If you have a face-to-face hybrid activity and you're really just leveraging the face-to-face students to use whiteboards or whatever chalkboards in the room, absolutely do that, use that. But just note that that is not going to be shareable on the other end. So you may go through and take pictures and post it in Blackboard if you're really wanting to report out to other students there. But you may have to just craft your class in an interesting way where if you're face-to-face, you're doing this engagement activity at this point. Maybe you're not even doing a synchronous Zoom that day. Maybe you're doing a different kind of Zoom, like office hours a little bit later. There's a lot of different ways to make that happen. But I did want to kind of demonstrate what this might look like. So I'm going to stop the share for a second. You have to stop sharing to be able to do what I'm about to do. So I am on camera. You can see me right now. I'm going to switch that input to the dot cam. Give it a second to switch. And I'm going to turn on the light on the dot cam. And what you should see is a few of the notes that we just took. You can see my hand here. You can also have 3D objects that you can show off. Looks like there was a cup over here, so you can kind of see what a cup is. I can move this dot cam up and down to really kind of get that. But what you're doing is you're able to write on a sheet of paper, a whiteboard, anything that's under this dot cam. And you have that one-to-one feeling, very similar to having a whiteboard or a chalkboard, drawing graphs, drawing whatever kind of equations you might need to draw. So this particular, Billy, I don't know, is that a right equation? I think it is.
You did good. That was a good one.
All right, so as you work with this, what I would do is I just have a little notepad right here. So I'm going to tear off notes. I may even have a spiral bound notebook that you just flip the pages. You can scan this, you can share it later. Maybe it's just good enough to have it right here on the whiteboard. Now, the thing is, I'm using that camera so you can't see me. All you're seeing is this camera at the moment. So it does kind of take away the vision of you. Now, there's some other ways to get around that if you feel like you being on camera is necessary at the same time as this being there. But that would require you bringing in a completely new device so that you could also join twice into that Zoom call. Very difficult, a little bit too much, I think, to kind of think about in certain instances. Now, one thing that the students can do is, as we talk, or maybe somebody says questions on this board, if you right-click on that little screen that you're seeing right here where my hand is, you can right-click on there and you can pin that video. So it doesn't swap around between a bunch of other videos. It's just showing this video here.
Wow.
It makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to switch back over to the camera. So I'm just switching within the program. So it's really just saying, I want to look at the dock cam or I want to look at the camera that's mounted on the screen. So with that, that is going to really complete our session today as far as what we have. This is the one last piece I did want to mention is when you have the dock cam on, in the classroom, you're projecting it. You're showing the rest of the classroom if you're doing a synchronous Zoom session. So this is how you get the classroom folks to be able to see it. One of the things that I had showed you a little bit earlier, though, was how that mirroring happens. So if the mirror is on and everything's backed up or changed, so it's reversed, do you know where you would go to fix that? Anybody have an idea? Go ahead and just shout it out if you know.
Here's the video.
Yep, it's under the video. It's in that settings on
Yeah.
video. Perfect. So you would have to just turn off mirror video. One last item that's been asked is, can you stream video? How do I show a video? I have a YouTube. I have something that I show. So we found that it is doable. You do have to have the volume on. You can't mute your mic. But this is a video that I had on YouTube that I'm going to share real quick. So I can hear this in the classroom, and you should be hearing the video right now.
I was 7 years old, and my sister was just 5 years old. We were playing on top of a bunk bed. I was 2 years older than my sister at the time. I mean, I'm 2 years older than her now, but at the time, that meant she had to do everything that I wanted to do, and I wanted to play war. So we were up on top of our bunk beds, and on one side of the bunk bed, I had put out all my G.I. Joe soldiers and weaponry, and on the other side were all my sister's Milos and ponies and ready for a cavalry charge.
So it's a great video. I love that video. If you've not seen Sean Akers, he talks about the secret to being more happy and positive. Great video. But I digress. This particular thing is to show you that you can stream video. So it may be a little choppier on your end, but you can basically do it and you can still kind of talk over that video as needed. I would suggest having everyone muted in that call if you start doing that. I've seen a lot of good conversation happen off in the chat as videos go as well. All right. So as far as that's concerned, the last steps that you would do in the classroom, I'm recording locally. So when I end this call, I'm going to be standing here for 15 minutes as this downloads to my jump drive. Everything's been recording this whole time. So if you're recording locally, be ready for it to stick around in the classroom. So we're really going to have to make sure, I don't know what the transition times between classes are. That's why we're going to the cloud-based recording, trying to make this really fast for you. So expect to be able to hit the record button right when you get into your session, when you're ready to start recording. And then that way, once you close the meeting, it's going to go into the cloud recordings and it can be viewed at a later time. So I know that this session may leave some room for additional questions. I have a few more minutes that we can answer some additional questions now, or you can look at some of our resources on that PLC website. That's actually in our Blackboard PLC. So we have a course that we put in Blackboard for all the webinar sessions and information that we have so that you can watch these videos later. So this video will be there later today or tomorrow morning, when you can review this video. There is also the teaching and learning course that has 3 modules in it that was designed by Denise and Alexis. And let's see here, I can go ahead and also mute everyone. So you can see, like right now, there's maybe some feedback. So I can go in and I could actually turn off the mute on a few of you guys. So one of the things that you are gonna really wanna do is play with Zoom as much as you possibly can. I think that's going to get you a little bit more comfortable with the platform, understanding what you need to click when you need to do something. I mean, even now, I would consider myself a Zoom veteran. There's little things that I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that. And it takes like a minute to do. And it feels a little daunting, you know, when everyone's on the call and you're trying to kind of navigate between these menus. But that is what I have to offer today. Any other questions, insights that somebody may have out there?
And I just wanted to mention that on Friday, I'll be enrolling all of y'all, everyone who's signed up for a webinar over the last 2 weeks into that Blackboard course. I created a course to be our very beginnings of a professional learning community hub for us on campus. So we'll have like a discussion area and a place to get to all of the webinar resources, even the ones you didn't attend or sign up for. So it'll hold everything for you. It's meant to be a hub for you. And you'll get access on Friday.
Okay.
And then the second thing I want to say is that we're running like 8 of these workshops that we've been doing over the last 2 weeks. We're going to repeat them in convocation. So anything that you missed or want to come back out to, feel free.
Absolutely. So we thank you for coming today. There's
Denise, could I ask a quick question about Blackboard? Maybe I'm not able to participate either, but where do you need to go for make available the class in Blackboard? I know this thing, I'm doing this once a year. I forgot which part of the Blackboard I need to go to make the class available.
We might be able to do a quick screen share and show you.
Yeah, actually, I could do that right now. I think I have my Blackboard up still, so let's see if, yeah, maybe I didn't have it up. Oh, I do. Here I am in Blackboard. Wait, actually I gotta change my screen share option. Hold on a sec. That's an example of me having a fumble around for a minute. Go. So you got the full screen. You should be seeing Blackboard on there. So there's two places you can turn on your courses. So if you're in your main Blackboard screen, we have a third-party tool. Makes it really easy. It's called Quickly. It's off the right-hand side of your Blackboard menu. Click this drop-down arrow. You're going to have a lot of different options in here of all your courses. It's literally a switch. You turn it on or off, and it makes it available for students. That's probably the fastest way to turn on your courses. If you'd like to do it from within your course, you can click into the course that you're in. This one's a little bit more in depth. You scroll down to the bottom, you turn on to your customization, click on properties, and then that's going to allow you to turn on your course in this set availability area.
Oh, okay. Very good.
There it is, and then make sure you submit once that happens. Now, I highly suggest if you haven't done a Blackboard Basics or one of the Blackboard sessions, you at least go through some of the videos. We also have a self-paced Blackboard course that's attached to the more pedagogical teaching course that Denise and Alexis have set up. So if you're really interested in just the nuts and bolts of Blackboard, we really highly suggest you take a look at that, because that's going to be a critical platform to use to communicate with your students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam, you mentioned trying to get in there 15 minutes before to get set up. There's only 10 minutes in between classes.
Well, and I guess that's a good point, is that 15 minutes from having nothing on to being fully ready for class. So if there's a transition period, as long as the person's not completely logging off the machine.
Okay.
One of the things that we're debating too is that we have the professor logins for all these computers. It's a quick login, has all your information in, or it's like a default login.
Right.
If you use that, it's going to be a lot better than if you try to log in as yourself and log out between each session. So we may need to put some more words about that in the faculty release. I'm actually working with Brian Vandenheuvel on that document, and I can add that in there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, since I've been participating in teaching for some time, one of the things that we have experienced is that we actually try to train ourselves during the day to not turn off the computer when you finish your class. Because when you do that, you are affecting the next person. They'll be waiting for a while when the computer is bringing up stuff. So we say the worst you can do is log out yourself, but don't turn off the computer.
Yeah, you don't want to, you log yourself off. The best thing that we can do, or what we've done, is those professor logins that we have are designed to load quickly, and it has everything that's in there.
Yeah.
So in this case, as we go into the fall, if you put your learning materials or all the resources in your Blackboard course, you don't have to log into any special account. You just go into Blackboard, which can be in any.
And you're done. Yeah, I think it helps a lot, because one of the reasons it was taking so long is each one of us was logging him or herself, because we were going there with the expectation that we'll be getting stuff maybe from the iDrive and stuff like that. And that was taking much, much longer to get everything up, especially when you have a lot of stuff that comes up when you log in. But with the professor logon, I think it's going to help a lot. And we'll let you know after our experiences.
Sounds good. And I anticipate the first couple of weeks of this are going to be a little bit of a learning curve for a lot of us. So the rooms right now are being outfit with this. So I would suggest that if faculty can come to campus, as soon as they can get experience with these rooms, they can walk into it and start playing, start feeling what it's going to be like to work on these machines. So there's no reason.
We will encourage everybody to actually try out stuff during the convocation week.
Yeah, and I'm thinking it may even be a little congested that week. So even if from now on, I would suggest you look at it. We still are having some shipping things because, like I said, a lot of the products that we purchase are very scarce right now. So dock cameras, for instance, they're due to ship that week of I believe, the 9th. So I only have one right now and a couple in a couple areas, but we're looking to have 80 of those come in by mid August.
Okay.
So as far
Okay.
as,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Adam, as far as trying out, I may have missed, did you say which room to try them out in?
Actually, any of the COVID rooms that have been listed, all of
Okay.
those have webcams. We've installed 80 webcams on the flex arms, and we have 100 of them. The reason it didn't go to the full 100 is we had some special rooms that need tripods and a few other details. But
Okay,
yeah,
it's just, I noticed some of the rooms are marked, this has been disinfected, don't go in here. Is that a concern?
so that's a good question. That's been there since the day essential employees were on campus.
That is, yeah, that's all the stuff.
Oh, well then it should
Yeah,
be
that's
taken
all the
down.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I keep finding them everywhere myself. So I think we may need to engage the team. Or
Yeah,
at least,
that's all the stuff. I'm aware of that. It's all the stuff. It was put in there during the first few weeks that we were told to stay off campus and stuff like that. And so they have not been removed, and then nobody's removing because they have not been given authority to remove them.
that's
All
true.
right, I'll bring that to Mohammed so
Okay.
maybe Q6 can be alerted.
Thank you.
I do believe that at the time it was put up by janitorial staff, at least
Yes.
or just a sheet. So it may be they know where those locations are.
Yeah.
Well, great. I'm going to go ahead and end the session so I can get this recorded on my jump drive and be able to make my next session.
Thank you. You have a good
Great.
afternoon. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Mhm.